Hi everyone, welcome back. A lot of the times I'm only dealing with simple fractions where you don't have mixed fractions, where you only have things like 3/4 and a half, keeping it simple. But there are times, especially as math gets further up, and there's probably a lot of students who would like to know how to do the mixed fractions. It's quite simple. If I looked at 1.5, there's so many things I can talk about with 1.5. So if I have 1.5 pizzas, I feel like drawing it over here. Here we go. There's one pizza and there's a half pizza. So how many halves have I got? So there's your 1 plus a half. There's 1.5 pizzas. So there's a half and there's another half and there's another half. So if I said, how many pieces of pizza have you got if you cut them in half? You say, I've got 3 pieces. And you can split them into smaller parts. So that's 3 halves. Maybe your brain has never taken in that that's all we're doing. What most teachers do, and I've done for years, I actually put a little arrow on to remind students who are struggling. You go 2 times 1 is 2, plus another 1. So what we're saying is there's how many halves are in 1? So if you go back over here, how many halves are in 1? How many halves are in 1? There's 2, plus another 1 makes 3 halves. And remember, we started with halves, so we're still on halves. So what happens if it's 1 1/3? I'm saying how many thirds, if I put my little arrow in, sometimes little things like that, just to try to get people more comfortable. How many thirds are in 1 whole? There's 3, plus another 1 makes 4, and we're talking about thirds. So 3 1s are 3, plus 1 is 4. Now, what am I going to do? I can go multiply the tops and multiply the bottoms. If you want to, you can do that and simplify it. I'm going to do that for a moment. 3 4s will be 12, and 2 3s are 6. And not bad when it ends up something as simple as 12 over 6, because how many 6 go into 12? And it goes in twice. So if I didn't do that, what can I do instead? I keep nagging about cancelling wherever you can. So 3 into 3 goes once, and 3 into 3 goes once. And we're saying there's a numerator can cancel when you're multiplying with a denominator, not when you're adding, unless it's straight up and down. We can cancel any numerator with any denominator. Now, both these numbers now, a numerator with a denominator, a top with a bottom, are both even, so I can halve the top and halve the bottom. Now if I go multiply the tops and multiply the bottoms, 1 times 2 is 2, 1 times 1 is 1, and 2 over 1, how many times does 1 go into 2? It's twice. Nice and simple. Most people that's probably enough, but I'm going to briefly show you this one. How many thirds are in 2 whole? And there's 6. How many thirds in 2 whole? So I could have 2 pizzas, draw them in thirds, and I can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So how many thirds in 2 whole? 6. And there's another 2 pieces. So I could draw it, if I could draw it well enough, around there like that. So there's 7, there's 8. How many thirds? How many thirds in 2 2/3 pizzas? And we can see the 8 there's 8 thirds. Then I could draw up quarters. How many quarters are 1 3/4? There we go, 1, 2, 3, 4. And if I can draw it accurately, about there, looks like a pram almost, 5, 6, and 7. How many quarters in 1 whole? If I did the arrow to remind you, how many quarters in 1 whole? And there's 4, plus another 3 is 7 quarters. So 4 1s are 4, plus 3 makes 7. Now, if I went multiply the tops and multiply the bottoms, 7 8s are 56. The trouble is, a lot of students don't know their times tables, for 7 times especially. So it mucks them up. 3 4s are 12. And at this stage, these numbers are quite awkward for a lot of people. They're both even. You can go half the top and half the bottom. But go back to what I keep nagging about. 4's even, 8's even. But better than even, 4 goes into 8. 4 into 4 goes once, 4 into 8 goes twice. So we can cancel when you're multiplying any numerator with any denominator when you're multiplying. Don't do it for adding and subtracting, and don't do it for division. Now, 3 and 7, there's nothing that cancels those. So now I could look at those 2 numbers and go multiply the tops and multiply the bottoms. 2 7s are 14. And 3 1s are 3. And there's our actual answer of 14 over 3. If I want to change it, this is an improper fraction. I want to change it back into a mixed fraction. Let's have a look what you do. 3 into 14 goes 4 times. So you've got 3, 6, 9, 12. So 3 into 14 goes 4 times. And how many are left over? So once you get up to 12, you've got to go, how much is left over? 13, 14. So I've got 2 left over. And the big thing that people muck up on is it started with thirds, so we end with thirds. So 3 in the 14 goes 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. And there's 2 left over, so we put the 2 over the 3. Oh, hope it helps. If you're finding it helpful, please press like, let your friends know. Thank you.